looking for a particular brand of spray paint, and I'm kind of freaking out that I'm not going to be able to find it. And I have 56 boards that I need to spray paint by Monday.
Fun. Like
So,
spray paint designs on?
yeah, kind of. It's yeah, basically designs. It's really just like 2 colors, but I've had to like put a gloss on them and, do whatever. So it's kind of a pain. But they are going in the lobby of the Ritz-Carlton.
Ooh, fancy.
So
Your
they need
job's
to.
your job sounds interesting.
Interesting is definitely the way to put it.
Is it like freelance or do you work for a company?
Both. So I work for an art consultant, and my day job is like the paperwork and really the being a project manager for art excuse me, interior designers. They contact us and want us to like pick out artwork for them, but my company also gives me commissions, and I have to do those commissions on my own time, but I get paid for them.
Gotcha.
So
And that's what this is.
yeah, so it's through my job, but I get extra money for it, except they don't pay me nearly what they should be paying, and that's a pain.
Getting paid is better than not getting paid, I find, typically.
Yes, it's kind of frustrating though when they think that because this is your second job that you don't need as much money as they would pay somebody else to do it. So getting undercut is kind of frustrating. And I was like, well, if you paid me enough with my first job, I wouldn't need to take commissions. But nobody sees it that way. All right. Oh, damn it.
Do you have a word?
I'm looking for it right now.
Sorry, did you say that?
No, I said, oh, because I just thought about it.
We're live now also.
Great.
I don't know if you saw it, but I finished Annihilation Book 2.
Nice. I know you were almost finished with it last week, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I just finished it today at lunch.
So what did you think about it?
It starts out really strong. It's very interesting. It's like it really ramps up the the what the fuck factor of the whole thing. Like it just gets real weird, which is fun in the beginning, but the middle, I like the middle, but it kind of dragged a little bit for me, but I think it really won me over with the ending. So I think I'm just going to keep going on, but I might read something else first, take a little palate cleanser or something.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like strange, intentionally hallucinogenic writing to like take in at once.
Oh, yeah, for sure. What sorry, I'm typing something. Okay. What did you think about the writing? Do you think that it's still the same, just kind of in a different like?
I love the guy's style. He's really good at writing. The only way I could describe it is like
Hello.
Whoa.
Hey.
Hey, Shelton. You are very loud.
Yeah, you guys are really loud. Hold on.
No, you're loud.
All right, just calm down.
I like your setup though, pop screen and everything.
Oh, fuck yeah, only pro here.
Fancy
yeah, I was gonna say he isn't a noob. Damn.
A noob. Yeah, I know. I love his writing style a lot. I think like my frustration is it's so mysterious that sometimes I feel like I need more and he's not giving it to me.
Yeah.
And I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I'm getting reasonably certain that I can read the whole next book and still not get any answers. Like, it doesn't seem like the kind of series that's going to give me any answers.
You reading that Da Vinci Code?
No, I finished the second in the Southern Reach trilogy, the second Annihilation book.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we were just talking
Yeah.
about. She was asking me. Sorry, I got a text. She was asking me if I liked the writing style, and I was saying the writing style I feel like is what's keeping me in it, despite some of the insanity of just the whole.
Yeah, it's real like dreamy and kind of surreal and
I like that. Yeah, I just
because I
feel
kind of
like
got lost with Annihilation. I got to a point where I'm like, wait, what the fuck? And then I was like,
Dude.
okay, I think it's supposed to be like this.
Yeah, I loved
And once I
Annihilation.
like got through that, I was good.
I loved Annihilation so much because of that, the book, because like, I think it's like you're kind of losing your mind with them or losing yourself because you can't, you know what I mean? Like their thoughts are not making sense to them anymore, so then they're not making sense to you also. But I could see how that can be frustrating too because it is kind of willfully difficult. But it's just very interesting, and yeah, I mean, I actually think that the movie. I mean, it's a little unfair to compare the two because they're so different. Like he makes so many changes, but I think the movie sticks the landing on the ending much better. Because he was intentionally kind of just wrapping the whole thing up, whereas obviously, obviously the book he had intentions of continuing.
Yeah, the book felt very like the first book in a series.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like there's clearly more to come.
Yeah. And I don't care what character descriptions he writes. I am picturing the people in the movie, and you can't stop me. They were talking about the director as being like this older, like heavy-set woman, and I was like, nope. She's actually a beloved '80s actress, and I will not hear anything else. All right.
I heard or I read something today where he had the main character pictured as Viola Davis when he was writing.
Oh, interesting.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, I like Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman actually makes more sense with the book version because I just have trouble picturing Natalie Portman as like ex-military. But
yeah.
But she's not. She's not in the book. She's just an actual biologist. So.
Oh, gotcha.
It's a little more, I think, makes sense in that sense. But they're really interesting. I mean, the fact that I've now cranked through 2 books in like a month and a half is a testament to how much I'm enjoying it. Even my little
for sure.
Even with my little frustrations, because if I'm not like way into something, I just cannot continue.
Well, and Casey was saying that the middle book is like pretty thick, right? Like that's the largest of the series.
It was, I think, like 500. I think the first one's like 200.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's a lot bigger.
It's hard for me to tell because I'm reading on the Kindle and I don't know if the Kindle does fucky things with page numbers, but I mean I'm reading on my iPad most of the time, so that's like pretty close to book sized, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then on my phone, I'm reading a book called Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. It's all about video game development.
Oh shit, I'm reading that too.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay. The author's not amazing, but the story.
Yeah, the first chapter was a little hard because it's some game I've never heard of. That's like, I don't know. It's not a genre I would play. But then I'm on the Uncharted chapter now.
Basically, our Wi-Fi at work is broken, so I can't get my iPad when I'm at work to sync with my phone, and when I'm, let's say, taking a constitutional break at work, I was like, I need something to read, but it's not syncing, and I hate like trying to manually like find where I was, so I'm like, I'm just gonna get another book. So that's what I did. I'm enjoying it.
That's what Words of Friends is for.
Yeah, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels is a great bathroom reader. Let's say that.
Yeah, I can see that. That's the book I read for like 5 minutes before I fall asleep.
Totally.
Like, okay, I'm gonna knock out this chapter, and then I'm out.
No, before bed, I make it like 4 pages, and that's usually about it. All right, so we're gonna go here off the top. I want to talk about what the hell's the name of this movie? The house with the fucking clock in the walls.
The house with a window and the.
Oh, I never watched that. I need to watch the trailer.
Why don't you do that right now if you can?
Don't tell me what to do.
Oh, I will.
The house.
The house with a clock in its walls.
Gotcha.
Concise.
We're gonna talk about that. Tweet with BGH.
Warlock and a witch.
Shelton you want to give us like a sophistical kind of check-in, just like, hey, what are you guys
sure.
going on? What's the last show? What's the next show?
Sure.
What's the vibe over at Sophistical?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I could do that. We actually did a show, so.
Because now they're not on the main feed a lot, so it might actually be a good opportunity just to give a little pitch for it for people who like aren't patrons.
Well, yeah, well, and we haven't done one in like 4 months, 5 months.
Seriously?
Yeah. I mean, obviously you're keeping up with.
What the hell, man?
No, like Andy was just like way too
I thought
busy
I just
like...
saw one dumped in the feed like a week ago.
No, we just did one. We just did one
okay.
like that was the first one since like October.
So yes, it is a good time then. Yeah, I might have to do an Eric show on the Annihilation series when I finish.
Yeah, I want to see the movie so I can go back because I always meant to read the second book, but I took a break and now it's been like 2 years.
They're so different.
So there's no way.
They're so different.
Really?
So like, yeah, I mean, like he took the bones of it and really kind of just went his own direction with it. I mean, there's things that are really similar, but I would almost you read the first book already, but you don't really remember it. I would just go see the movie and then go from there.
Yeah. Well,
like I
although I was
actually
reading
think it.
I was reading that Alex Garland, the guy who directed it, only like on purpose only read the book like once.
Yeah, and you can tell.
And then like wrote and then just kind of wrote his own thing and didn't refer back.
I kind of decided I was glad I had watched the movie first because Sophie sort of went in with the book frame of mind and it like she had trouble adjusting to some of the stuff because it's so different.
Well, that's what I've heard from people is that the people who read the book first didn't like the movie. But the people who hadn't read the book liked the movie.
But I think that it was really brilliant, actually, like what he kept and what he cut. Like he cut out, he gets to the heart of it in the movie. Like he cuts out a lot of the, like really out there shit that kind of distracts from the point. That you can just tell. I don't know. He like boiled it down to its essence and then went from there and just made a really great sci-fi movie.
I gotta watch this.
Yes, I think you'd like it.
CC, you good with the trailer?
Yes.
That is directed by Eli Roth. Did you catch that?
Yes, because I saw his wife in it.
Oh, I didn't see her. Okay, I didn't watch the whole trailer. I stopped like with a minute left because I'm like, all right, I get what this is. All right, so we're going to talk about that movie. We're going to talk about Tweet with BGH. Can you mention that, CC? You got that text, right? I'll bring it up, and then you can just give me the details. Is there worth doing a book club update?
No, I wouldn't do a book club update.
Okay. All right. So then
we can next week.
We'll talk about Sophistical at that point, and then we will move on. Just to confirm, can you guys hear this?
Yep.
Okay. I'm not.
Oh, actually, I could do a thing for the cult movie challenge we're doing.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Love it.
Because our numbers are dwindling and.
Okay. Good.
Needs people to vote.
That part's not good, but we can.
Yeah, no, I won't mention that.
All right, I'm recording.
We're not live, are we?
No, we're not. Yeah, we are. I'm going to. I'm already recording, so if you guys mute, we will go.
Welcome to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be reviewing Unsane. It's like being sane but not. Directed by Steven Soderbergh. I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me tonight, first up, coming to you from Hotlanta, Georgia. Please welcome the High Priestess of Books at Bloody Good Horror, Cece, to the show.
Hello, and you are right. It is back to being very hot in Georgia. We are at 77 today, and I'm already sweating.
It was 60 today, and it's like when it's 60 in the Northeast after the winter, people are just like skipping around like crazy people. It's incredible. It's like coming alive again.
Yes. Slowly but surely.
Next up on the show, you might say the South Coast being represented here tonight, because joining us next, fancy member of Sophisticult Cinema, the homeless professor of Bloody Good Horror. Please welcome John Shelton to the show.
Oh, hey everybody.
How's it going, John?
Oh, good. A little soggy here.
You're in Austin, right?
San Antonio.
Oh, well, I was pretty close.
Yeah, close enough.
In the state.
Weren't you in Austin at some point?
No.
What?
But I mean, Austin's not that far. It's,
yeah, sure.
An hour and a half away. So
it's the same thing, basically.
I go to Austin on weekends.
Nice. Yeah, guys, we're here tonight to talk about Unsane. But first, breaking news. I went into my theater this weekend and took a picture of the pee floor.
I mean, okay, you were right. I was a little underwhelmed by the picture you sent. I was waiting for like a thin, grimy film of urine.
Well, it's a lighting thing. It's a lighting thing. Like it's hard to see, but like,
sure.
And also, you kind of miss the real visceral nature of it when it's not your shoes that are sticking to the floor as you walk into the bathroom.
Yeah, I mean, when you really think about it, it's still super disgusting.
It's hilarious though. So we've been talking about this forever, and it's kind of become a thing. So, and I was talking about how, I'd love to take a picture, but I don't want to be a dude like with my phone out in the bathroom. So I walk in on Sunday to see Unsane, and nobody's in the bathroom, and I'm like, I gotta do this, right? It wasn't as bad as it has been, but I'm like, I have to do this. So I pull my phone out, I take a picture. I was gonna take another one, but then I heard somebody coming in, so I put it away. So I didn't want to just like assault people with a pee picture, so I got on Slack on the thread for the show, and I was like, guys, I took a picture of the pee, and nobody responded for like 6 days. And like yesterday, I was having this conversation with Mark, and he's like, I think it's hilarious that you posted about it and you're so excited, and nobody responded to you. And then finally today, like 3 people caught up with that feed finally, and we're like, wait a second, what?
Whoops. You gotta let people come around to Slack. Like sometimes Slack is super, super active, and then other times, you got a little bit of a lull. So then you just kind of hit a lull.
People just need some time to process. You gotta prepare yourself for a picture of a ring of pee.
So then Cece, because she's a deviant, was sliding into my DMs asking me for pee pics.
If that doesn't go on BGH Classic, then we've messed up as a show.
Oh man, listen. I'm gonna keep monitoring the situation, and if I find one worse, I will stake out that bathroom until I can take a picture.
I think we need to. Yeah, you're gonna have to, because we need like progressive pictures of this happening.
What I really need is like a hidden camera in my fly, or like a taint camera sort of, because it's got to aim down. When I'm at.
That's illegal.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure you could get one. But
so what you're telling me, Sheldon, what you're saying, Sheldon, is it's legal for me to pull my phone out and take a picture of the floor, but not incognito.
Well, not if you're pointing your crotch towards the thing to
maybe,
take a picture.
Yeah, maybe if it's not attached to your taint, but who knows?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to workshop some ideas here and maybe come up with some blueprints.
I want you to videotape yourself going to a spy shop and being like, I really need a taint camera.
I just wish you guys.
I love this Inspector Gadget underwear that you're designing here.
I know. I wish you guys could have seen just me trying to be all slick, taking a picture in the bathroom. Like, I just had to do it.
Well, I'm just glad you didn't like drop your phone, because that would have been devastating.
You'd have to buy a new phone.
You would have just left it.
I'm such a germaphobe too. Like, I dropped a pen in the bathroom sink at work today, and I was like, well, that's just gonna stay there forever because I'm not touching that.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
John Shelton.
Yes, sir.
How's it going, buddy? You haven't been on in a little while here.
Yeah, been a while.
How'd you feel when we asked you to join us for Unsane?
I was excited for once. The last movie I did was Insidious: The Last Key, and we know how that went.
God.
So I was like, hey, I actually want to see this movie.
Oh, I was excited because Schnars is out, and Schnars is usually like the person on the show that might know something about like a real director. So I'm hoping that you can bring me some even just fake knowledge tonight. Just act like you know a lot about him.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I will read directly from the IMDb trivia.
Oh, yeah.
And, but paraphrase it all to make it sound natural. Totally.
So new listeners may not know, but you are the co-host of Sophisticated Cinema, which is probably the longest running BGH spinoff. It's been around for a while.
Yeah, I think so.
And this,
Yeah, it's been a long time.
so Sophisticated Cinema just came back after a little bit of a hiatus. Why don't you, if people are listening and they're not patrons, because that's how you would get the show, is become a patron at any level and you get access to all the spinoff shows. What's the elevator pitch for Sophisticated?
Okay, well, Sophisticated, it's me and Schnars and Andy, and occasionally special guests from the extended BGH family. And what we do are movies that are kind of not horror movies, but horror adjacent. Like we say, it's where the art house meets the grindhouse. So most recently we did Mute, which is the new movie from Duncan Jones, who made Moon and Source Code, that premiered on Netflix and was really, really bad. And one of the things that we do is we take a new movie and we pair it up with some old classic movie, a cult classic kind of movie that hopefully we haven't seen before. And for that episode, we did this movie called Hardcore, which is a 70s movie with George C. Scott about this like upstanding Lutheran guy whose daughter runs away to join the porno industry, and he goes to find her. Really great movie, a lot of fun. So that's what we do. We do 2 movies. Comes out, we'll say monthly, on paper. And yeah, we've taken a little bit of a hiatus because Andy has just moved, started a new job, had all kinds of craziness, but he's settled down a little bit. So we're gonna get back on a regular schedule, and
Great.
Yeah, you should check it out.
So Andy, it's funny you bring up Andy because he is out in Oklahoma. Is that something?
Nebraska.
Yeah, he's in Omaha.
Kansas,
I'm gonna be honest.
Nebraska.
That's basically that matches up my head. So he went out there to basically take over, like run like an old classic revamped theater, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was actually on Slack today. So during the whole P conversation, he's like, we need to talk about this offline. So he also slid into my DMs and was telling me, was just giving me horror stories about the way people treat movie theaters and how it's just like impossible to deal with. I think he was coming from the idea of like being sympathetic to theater owners, but like he's running this little independent thing. This is like a giant ass Regal in the suburbs.
Yeah.
Like just get a fucking pimple-faced kid to run a mop through there like twice a day. I think it'll be fine. But his stories were like literally insane that he was telling me. So I just thought that was funny.
Yeah.
But
Something about the movies affects your aim.
But yeah, speaking of Sophisticated, so basically when you sign up to become a patron, you are going to get a special link that's an RSS feed, and then it's really easy. You can do it on iTunes or whatever thing you use for podcasts on your phone. You plug that in as a feed, and it just reads it like any other show, and then you just get all the Patreon content through there.
Yeah, so you get that. You get Something Red. You get the Eric Show.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now you get Cinema Fromage back from the grave.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I know you can do it in iTunes, and then I use this other app whose name is escaping me at this moment, but so most things support like putting in feeds manually or whatever, so there you go.
That's why I've got Beyond Pod. Just plug it in, you got it. Boom, boom.
Awesome.
Bang, bang.
And you get the Eric Show, which is really all you could want out of life, I think.
The only show that really matters.
It's true. Sophie, oh my God, Cece.
For Sophie.
The reason why I said that is because I want you to tell me about Tweet with BGH.
Yes. So Sophie and the other new class peeps are doing the next Tweet with BGH on Sunday, April 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern. And they haven't decided on a movie yet, but you can always follow their Twitter or, the BGH Twitter, and it will be posted. Normally it's all streaming too, so it's free. There's a drinking game that comes with it, and it's a good Sunday night jam to get you back in.
Yeah, they
back
had
in spirits to go to work.
It seemed like they had a good turnout last time, so that's a fun thing. So there you go. Cece, you reading anything good right now?
No, because I'm I still haven't finished Annihilation, and I feel horrible that I haven't finished that yet. So,
I just finished the
I
second
know.
book before Cece finished one book.
And you're telling me it's 500 pages, and I haven't even finished a 200-page book yet. Like, I mean, I'm having an existential crisis here. Like, who am I? I don't know.
When Eric's the biggest reader out of all of us. So
and
what
listeners,
does this world come to?
And listeners who are listening to the pre-show now know that I'm actually reading another book exclusively in the bathroom now. So there you go.
Is that book also like 500 pages?
I don't know. Actually, I haven't looked. I had to, when I was reading the Game of Thrones, I had to make it the same book all the time because like it was the only way I could feel like I was making any progress.
Yeah, you'll never finish that otherwise.
Yeah.
Right.
But there you go.
Yeah.
One last thing I want to talk about before we jump into the review here. The trailer for this crazy thing I've never heard of dropped called The House with a Clock in Its Walls.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
What is this? This is is this a book?
It is actually. I looked it up because I was like, what? Okay, so this is Eli Roth, which makes no sense. It looks like Eli Roth's Goosebumps.
Yes, that's exactly what it looks like.
And he literally got Jack Black to star in it.
Yeah. I looked it up, and apparently it's based on a book from like the 70s or something, like a whole series of books. Because that's what I was looking at. I was like, this looks like it looks like what do you call it? A series of unfortunate events, kind of a little Harry Potter in there. They're definitely going for that kind of like an junior horror kind of thing.
Yeah, like an interesting horror tinge to it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it, and I mean, it looks fun for that audience. So I'd probably check it out.
I'm all for Eli Roth like mixing it up because what he does regularly maybe isn't working that well.
I mean, the thing that
Death Wish doesn't really look that great, and it's kind of
my God, the reviews
poorly timed, and
the reviews of that thing just savaged it. And then it's funny, I don't read movie reviews except when I sense that people are gonna really destroy something that I want to read just be destroyed. And I read like at least 2 reviews for that, but I never read movie but that. And then the last one was like I read a Justice League review because I just had to know.
Oh God, Justice League, man.
But especially
I told you about that one.
If I like a movie or I'm excited to go see a movie, I will stay as far away from movie reviews as you possibly could because
for sure,
all they can do is just like taint your brain, But the thing, like this trailer actually looks good, which is maybe the most shocking thing to me about it. But I weigh that against having seen the last couple of Eli Roth movies and just deciding I don't think he's a very good filmmaker. So I'm just like, how good could it possibly be?
Well, I mean, it looks cheesy, but it also looks like that's kind of part of its charm, maybe. And I think that I mean, like Shelton said, it's. I just want him to try something new.
Well, that's what I mean, and this is like he's doing what I'm always saying, like him and Rob Zombie should do, which is direct someone else's material.
Yes.
Because they're bad at making material, but like, so maybe that's good. Maybe the fact that he's got something.
Yeah, if he's just focusing on visuals and doesn't have to put his weird fingers all over the script. That's probably a good thing.
Yeah, because visually it looks fun. It looks, like you said, it's got some Goosebumps vibes, but also like the particular, what was that movie with Eva Green about the particular home for particular children or something? Kind of has like that kind of feel to it.
It's Lady Bird?
No, it's Ms.
Yes, Lady Bird.
Ms. Peregrine's Home for Unusual Children or something like that.
Yes, that one.
Yeah, I just that was something that I saw. I don't know if it dropped today or if I'm just seeing it or what, but it looked kind of interesting. All right, guys, it is time. Ready to get unsane, y'all?
Unsane in the membrane.
Let's take a quick break and do just that.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. Up the front time, bitch. Main feature.
Cece.
Yes. I'm here. Present.
Did you go to Duke?
No.
Oh, where'd you go?
I went to a state school.
Oh, wow.
Oh, boy.
State school. LOL. What about you, Shelton?
Yes, I did go to Duke.
Did you really?
No, fuck no.
Wow, you said that you should be an actor. That was incredible.
Well, thanks.
Well, yes, I did go to Duke. All right. Well, Cece,
Yes.
please bring us the word of the day.
Yes. So the word of the day is maybe not pronounced correctly, but scopophobia, which is the fear of being
Nailed it.
watched. Good. It originates from the Greek word scopion, which means to look or to examine, and phobos, which means deep dread or aversion.
I love the word. I love the word phobos.
Yes. And it relates to the movie because our main character has been stalked quite a bit, quite intensely, and it causes some intense paranoia for her and kind of leads into the rest of her life.
Yes. Yes, it does. Thank you for that, Cece. That is the word of the day, something that Cece brings us now because Schnars doesn't love me and never shows up anymore. I also like the fact that like the Duke joke has gotten so obscured now that if you were a new listener, you'd just be like, why does he
Why
care
does
if they
it
went
even
to
matter?
Duke?
Yeah, it's a March Madness thing, I guess.
Yeah. March Madness. Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. Unsane, directed by one Mr. Steven Soderbergh, somebody I definitely know things about, but I'll let Shelton tell us about it after this. Shot on phones, I guess, on like
iPhones.
talking phones, so that's pretty cool. Stars Claire Foy, Jay Farrow of SNL fame, and Joshua Leonard, who you may remember as Josh from the Blair Witch Project. Only now he's like a little pudgy and really creepy.
So creepy.
Like he's so skinny in a Blair Witch Project. It's just weird seeing him like look like a dad. It's kind of just like
happens.
that. Yeah. I get it, bro. Yeah, so this movie, we open up Claire Foy. She is a young professional lady who has moved away from her hometown or moved away from her parents. She's living by herself, started a new job. And we kind of slowly get these trickle of details about her life. Her mom is like kind of very interested in what's going on with her, but you can tell there's some distance there. We learn early on in the movie that she had a stalker and that was why she moved from her town. It's weird. This information is kind of doled out in weird kind of drips and drabs, so it's hard to kind of really pinpoint when things happen. But that's the basic idea that Josh, whose name I knew 2 seconds ago and now I don't. It was this girl's stalker, and she basically had to get a restraining order against him and move and leave her job and her family and all this stuff. So she's in a new town, but she's kind of experiencing PTSD pretty hardcore and having like delusions of like seeing him in places and stuff. And so she decides to go to, just like on her lunch break, she decides to go talk to a therapist. And during the course of the conversation, things get kind of weird. She mentions that she thought about suicide before, which is actually a pretty common thing to ask in those types of situations. Like, you know, have you ever thought about hurting yourself? And she just kind of says something that I think a lot of people say, which is like, you know, never really seriously, but yeah, like, you know, I've thought about it or whatever. And then the lady hands her some forms and she signs them, and it's kind of just like, okay. And then she goes to leave, and she's ushered into a room, and they take her phone, and she's just kind of confused and feeling weird. And then they want her clothes, and then she, over the course of a few minutes, discovers that she has signed paperwork to commit herself for 24 hours and can now not get out because this paperwork has been signed.
Whoops.
Yeah, it's real messed up, man. So she's thrown into this really bootleg, like mental facility where like clearly shit's just not being run well. There's a bunch of people kind of thrown in these common rooms sleeping together. Jay Farrow's one of them who kind of befriends her pretty early on. Does this other girl who plays the like crazy chick, is she somebody that I should know?
Juno Temple? Yeah, I mean, she was in Horns, and she was in Batman. She's very much a character actress.
Which Batman?
The one with Catwoman, The Dark Knight Rises.
No shit.
Huh.
What was she in that movie?
She's Selena's roommate, and I think there's some like discussions
yeah.
that like she was playing like an unnamed major character.
Interesting.
But
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, she's got that one of those names you just recognize because it's like a distinct name, but I don't really know her from anything. So
yeah.
she's like a pretty, you know, whereas there's question throughout the movie of like Claire Foy's stability, this chick is not stable and is like a little violent and scares her
doubt.
in the beginning. And so, as she's trying to deal with this, she tries to get in contact with her mother, who kind of comes to town and is trying to get her out. But she kind of has a couple breakdowns really quickly and attacks some people, and then they tell her that because she's been violent, they have to keep her for 7 days. And then she starts seeing her stalker like working in the hospital. But of course, like at this point in the movie, she's been hallucinating and seeing him kind of everywhere. So we don't know if this is real or not. And that becomes the crux of most of the movie, is her trying to figure out what's real, what isn't. You know, is she really a danger to herself? And it's good that she's been committed, or as we start to learn, like maybe there's some kind of nefarious things going on with her being committed. And that's kind of the gist of the movie. So I think we should probably drop a spoiler warning, a blanket one now. We're going to avoid some of the stuff for a little bit, but we're really going to have to dig into it to kind of get to the meat of this movie. I think we all think it's a pretty interesting movie, to say the least. So just kind of be warned as we get into this. Cece, do you want to tell me what you thought?
Sure. So I went into this movie pretty cold. Like, I didn't see any trailers. I hadn't really read anything about it. The only thing I knew was that it was shot on iPhones. So I didn't really know what to expect. And, you know, I don't really... I guess the best way to explain it is how I kind of talked about it in the email that we talk about it before the show. I thought the movie overall was super, super successful, but I have never wanted to walk out of a movie more than I did this film.
I actually like totally understand that sentiment. Yeah.
I mean,
so you were just really uncomfortable. It really, like,
yeah, like, I mean, I don't know, like it was super, super tense. Like, I thought that the way that it's set up being very, voyeur-esque, like you're seeing, like, yeah, it's shot on iPhones, but you kind of realize that, like, once you realize she's been stalked and she's continued to being stalked, whatever, like, and you realize that the iPhones are really coming from the stalker's point of view, and it's a very, intrusive and very just kind of, this unwanted, this unwanted vulnerability. I think that it was super, super unsettling.
Even before you get to that stuff, which we'll get into, but like just the idea of being involuntarily committed, thinking you're sane, and being put in a situation like this, like, and that is done. It's done so well where, and it's actually like a theme in the whole movie, right? But it's like her voice is taken away from her. She's literally talking to these people in the hospital who are going through the motions of committing her, and it's like they're just so trained to ignore anything you're saying that it literally just feels like all of your agency and power is like completely stripped away. As soon as that started happening, my skin started crawling. I don't know. It was funny. It's like this thing that I didn't know was a weird phobia of mine, but apparently is, because it's just like, it's so jacked up. I mean, it's reminiscent of something like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Right.
But that was that was a thing that was really socially important at the time because that was such a problem. But it's not something you think of as being a problem now. Whereas I almost wonder, was this movie kind of at all based on a real life thing? Because when they kind of explain what's happening, my cynical 2018 view of the world, I could like kind of see it. So now I'm just like which also I thought was like maybe a terrible message to send to people who need help. That they might.
And if you go to a counseling, then you might get committed.
Legit, right? Because how much of mental health outreach is just trying to get people to go get the help, and then this movie's like, nah, bro, don't do that.
No, well, I mean, coming from somebody who has spent the past 2 years in intense therapy, I will tell you that if you have any mental illness whatsoever, then yes, this is a extremely triggering movie, because I mean, literally every time you go in there and you're trying to like open up and tell somebody, okay, this is how I feel, like you want me to be completely raw and honest and like unfiltered, does that mean like I'm going to get to walk out of here? And to see like, or to see her reaching out for help and for that help to be like unanswered in the way that like she's desperately needing it is just like
even when the mom and
we'll
Sheldon, will jump over to here in a second, but like even when the mom tries to help, the mom, and that's like such a impactful thing too, seeing the mom feeling powerless. Like she's on the outside, right? She still has her agency, but she's powerless to do anything about her daughter kind of being in the situation. And I just have to say, like, being a parent, it's just funny how it kind of changes your outlook on everything, even though this woman is much older than me and this kid is like my age or younger, you know. It's just like you kind of start to get that dynamic a little more, and it's just like it's brutal to watch.
Well, yeah, you just assume when the mom comes in that like everything's gonna be okay.
Because she's your
like,
mom.
She's she's on the outside. She can like deal with this. Obviously, like this is some kind of mistake, and she'll take care of things. But
well, even when, and I know that we can get back to this later, but like they even have a moment where she's talking to the family lawyer, and it's just like it's so maddening that I was just like, I don't know that I can sit through this.
John, what'd you think?
So yeah. I also came into this like not having any idea what it was about. I just knew Steven Soderbergh shot on iPhones. And I'm a big Soderbergh fan. You know, we mentioned earlier. I think the guy's he's a really interesting filmmaker because he does like super like mainstream movies like the Ocean's 11 movies and like Magic Mike. Like he can do that sort of thing, and then he'll like turn around and do some weird experimental movie with like he made one movie that like one of the first like digital video movies with like all non-professional actors. He made a movie with a porn star as the lead actress,
right. Sasha Grey.
And he does like stuff like this. Yeah. Oh, you're familiar.
I don't know.
So yeah, and this is kind of like he made a movie a couple of years ago called Side Effects that I think is probably the closest thing to this, because it's also kind of like a sort of low budget like thriller type movie that also is like an indictment on like the insurance industry, which is, or the pharmaceutical industry specifically, which is kind of interesting. So anyway, that's my background coming in. I was pretty intrigued just because I like Steven Soderbergh in both of his modes, and like mainstream mode and in like, you know, weird experimental mode. This is kind of like right there in the middle. Overall, I liked the movie. I thought there were some plot holes that I had some issues with that we can get into later.
Yeah, we definitely can talk about some of that stuff.
A lot going on in this movie, and that was my main issue. Is just there's three good stories for a movie in this, and he kind of jams them all together. I think if one of those was cut out, it would have been you know, a little tighter, you know, a little better.
Yeah, I think this movie is really interesting. But like Cece, like to say I enjoyed it is a tough word to use because it's hard to remember the last movie that made me feel this uncomfortable and kind of like I just wanted to crawl out of my own skin and run away from the theater, because it's just so good at making you feel isolated, but at the same time claustrophobic. I think it's interesting. The aspect ratio was kind of weird in my theater, and I wasn't sure if that was because it was shot on phones or if they just didn't do the thing where
I think so.
But like so with a phone and in like digital video, you don't really get a depth of field unless you use these like special attachments to do that. So in its native form, you're not getting that. And he plays with that by like framing clairfoy a lot, like on the side of a frame or in the corner of a frame, and then you see people in the background, but because they're not out of focus, you can see their faces, and so you can see them looking at her, and you feel their kind of presence more than you would when there was more depth of field. And so it makes everything feel kind of cluttered and claustrophobic in a really interesting way. So I kind of liked what he was doing. I'll be honest, like most of the time I wasn't even, in the beginning I was very dialed in on the visual stuff because I was interested in it, but it really kind of faded away from me just because it's directed so well. But it's definitely kind of experimental in the way that he's visually telling the story, which I was pretty into. I think that it's
Yeah.
like it's a really freaky ass movie. I think Claire Foy is amazing. I don't know her from a hole in the wall. I don't think I've ever seen her in anything. I thought she was incredible here. I think Joshua Leonard is really good as playing a really creepy dude. Jay Farrow's great. Jay Farrow walks this great line of being funny, very sympathetic. He's kind of the lone beacon for a lot of the movie for the main character. It just made me think, wow, it's just funny you don't see him in a lot of stuff like that, but I'd like to see more of him for sure.
Yeah, no, he's really great as a dramatic actor, and the cool thing with his character is it's really hard to tell if with anybody in this movie really, like, is he crazy or is he like the lone voice of reason in this movie?
Yeah, right. And so that's a lot of the tension of the movie is, is our lead character hallucinating and crazy? Is she not? Is Jay Farrow a nefarious character, or is he really just being friendly? Are these people running a scam, or is she really a threat against herself? And so all of these kind of dichotomies playing out, and you're trying to follow it all, and it's very dreamlike in a lot of for a lot of it. I do think there are some kind of plot holes, and it is taking on a lot by the time you kind of come to the end, but it's just so intense. There's this incredible scene at the end we'll talk about where it's just two characters in a padded room yelling at each other, and it's all shot in one take. It looked like the camera just kind of swinging around, and it's just like just a really impressive thing. And then it just leads up to this really crazy kind of nihilistic ending that I really enjoyed. So I didn't have a lot of expectations. It's interesting that it's kind of similar to Annihilation this year. It's really stuck with me. I've been thinking about it a lot this week since I got out of it. It's just kind of a movie that gets under your skin and just kind of stays there. I kept thinking when I was watching it that in a weird way, it's like a B movie or an 80s movie in the sense of, for a modern movie, you think of like mental health issues and all this stuff, and you think of, like maybe we're trying to tell this nuanced story about mental health, but like it's almost not interested in that as much as it is in being a B movie in the sense of just leaning into the insanity of it. Like think of
I don't know. I mean, we can talk about it, but I kind of disagree with you there.
But I mean that in a good way. It's like it's like, like her mind isn't. I mean, okay, let's just drop the spoiler alert now so we can talk about it. Like, spoiler alert: her mind isn't playing tricks on her. The actual craziest scenario you could possibly imagine in this movie is fucking happening. And so that's what I mean by like 80s movie. It's the way that an 80s movie would go there, but nowadays you would see a more like nuanced, maybe deeper take on it. But he goes this way, and it just makes everything insane, like in a good way. It's just crazy. It allows him to take just everything, just kind of crank the tension up to 11 and just kind of make it, I don't know. It's just one of those movies where you don't know what's going to happen next because it's so nuts.
And I mean, I agree with you. Like, I think that him leaning into the craziest things happening, I mean, like the truth is stranger than fiction. So like the actual stuff that's happening and what she's experiencing is kind of telling this nuanced story of her experiencing this super intense vulnerability that she never agreed to. And there's this whole story of consent that is very relevant today. And it's very interesting, her response to that and her fight, as opposed, I mean, while opposing the people that are basically like oblivious to it.
That's really interesting actually, and like kind of draws it in my head a little clearer. Like her journey is actually pretty nuanced and interesting and like deeply written. Everything going on, like, but then there's a batshit crazy B movie happening around her, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah, and I think that like that's but it's a really interesting aspect that's how the movie is set up, because like you said, like everything that's happening around her is so crazy and she's fighting something for herself, but also in this situation where she has nothing to grasp onto. Like her sense of reality is so skewed that the things around her that's happening are crazier than than what she even feels like she, She thinks she's losing her mind, but reality is crazier than what's actually, you know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say.
That's a good point. She really is kind of like a really nuanced character with a lot of things going on, kind of dropped into a very like 90s like psycho thriller kind of thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, so let's talk about the stalking stuff, because I think we talked about mental illness earlier, like, and if you have experience with it, if you like, the thing you wouldn't know from the trailers is that if you have experience with a stalker and that shit was like real for you, do not see this movie, because
like I've never been one for like really driving home like trigger warnings, but
but this movie is like
movie is so beyond that.
Because,
like if you have experience with it, do not watch this movie.
Because my experiences are like miles away from this, but I was super uncomfortable watching a lot of this, so I could just imagine.
Because what it does is, so this whole subplot, which isn't even really, was this crazy stalker and forced her to leave her life. And there's a lot of this is shown in flashbacks, but it seems clear to me, and again, I haven't had this experience, but just knowing, you know, what I've read from other people's experiences and kind of seen documented, it seems like he actually did a lot of research into like the personality and methods of a stalker, as well as the impact that it has on a person's life. Because what we see in these flashbacks, it's funny, Matt Damon actually has a cameo as like a cop.
Oh my God.
Either a cop or an ex-cop or like a private investigator that she has hired to help her deal with the stalker. But and it's funny because it's Matt Damon, but this moment with him is so illustrative, and like it's so key in framing her state of mind, because he sits down with her and basically tells her her life is over. He's basically like,
and he gives her a book, The Art. I could almost scream.
The Gift of Fear.
So mad. Yeah, you're right, Sheldon.
But like,
I mean, it was.
He sits her down in this very like matter-of-fact way, and it's clear he deals with these people all the time, right? He, in a very matter-of-fact way, he's like, okay, like I know you had a garage out back. You don't want to park in that. You want to park under a light.
Might as well sell your car. Just take an Uber everywhere.
Yeah, he's like, you should sell your car. You should delete your Facebook, all your social media right now.
Always carry your keys in your hand.
Always carry your keys in your hand. If you were at a party and somebody's taking a picture, you should do anything you can to get out of that picture and tell all your friends, do not post pictures of you, do not tag you in things. And it's like there's something it's so effective about his matter-of-fact tone, because she's hearing it and she's like devastated, but he knows what this guy is just by knowing the type of person.
Yeah, he's just at his job.
And that's what this movie does, is like
said this many times.
This movie has that person typed out so well, and we see later through Joshua Leonard really revealing himself and his motivations. It's like you could read the like, you know, psychology manual genuinely, that it's like it is just a deeply unsettling thing to watch a person like that just can't be rationed with.
Well, and it's really interesting. There's so many things that's frustrating with that section of the movie, and frustrating in a real life way. Like, I mean, I talk about it in the email. Like, I was really surprised movie, because the raw fear that Claire Foy has during the entire movie is so palpable that it's like I can't imagine. I've never, in that situation with a male stalker, like stalking a female, I've never had a guy say that he's understood that. And it's just really, it really touches on the way that girls are raised to carry your keys in your hand, always have your phone in your hand, make sure that you're not walking in dark alleys. Like, all of these things that they talk about in the movie are things that women are constantly reminded of in self-defense classes, and to have that illustrated in such a tangible way was super overwhelming. And it's just it's such a stepping. The Gift of Fear is such a stepping stone for the rest of the movie, that if that pisses you off and frustrates you, like, the rest of the movie is just like devastating.
Right. And I mean, that's the really interesting thing, is that yes, there's these crazy B movie elements going on around it, and yet at its core there's this kind of like really well drawn thing where
Yeah.
it feels like it feels like this is something that somebody close to him has experienced and he wanted to illustrate what it was like for
Oh,
people.
for sure. I mean, it's also interesting that David, the stalker character, that Leonard's character is so he's drawn from such a unthreatening point of view, because through these flashbacks, well, when we first see him, to get kind of further into a spoiler alert, when we first see him, we're not sure like how much of a threat he really is, and you kind of think it kind of reinforces, okay, yeah, Claire Foy's character is crazy. What's happening is, she's just, exaggerating everything. And even in these flashbacks, when you see him, he's creepy, but it's never overt. Like, it's always that super like, oh, he's standing too close, or oh, he's, the hug lasted a little too long, and you can see Claire Foy is uncomfortable, but he's not. So it's really well drawn and very detail oriented.
They really get to the heart of like, yeah, that weird, he's passive, but he's also just like, he lives in his own head and he's super delusional about their relationship. You know what part actually freaked me out, which is weird because it's not visceral and it's not really that intense, but during the flashback montage where they're kind of laying out her whole ordeal with him and they show him texting her and it's just her looking at her phone and it's like, hi, why don't you text me back? And it's like alternating between angry and apologetic and happy, like exuberant. Holy shit, that part freaked, because I've seen like, listen, I like watch a lot of like 2020s and Datelines.
Yeah.
So I've like
seen
I've seen them talk about that scenario though, where it's like, oh, he sent you 4,000 text messages in 24 hours. But to see it like from somebody's perspective of it popping up on your phone, I don't know why that gave me such like a visceral like chill.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just so invasive. It's just
invasive. It's invasive because they're reaching out, because now that technology allows that stalker to reach directly into your world with like no notice. Yeah.
Well, there's even like little subtle things that I thought were pretty interesting. Like CC, you mentioned in the emails about early on in the movie, like before any of this like gets underway, she meets with her boss.
Oh my God, yeah.
And he basically is like, oh, you're doing a really, really great job. There's this conference coming up in New Orleans. I think we should go. Which I think that's really interesting, because you had a really different, not a different take on it, but for me, like as a guy, I think I was kind of a little oblivious. I'm like, is he hitting on her? Is he?
Oh, no.
Oh, really?
But in your email, you're like, well, obviously, like this guy was like trying to like
no, he was being he was being super skeevy, because then she looks at him and she's like, I should get back to work, and he goes, oh yeah, no, you should get back to work. That's cool, yeah.
That's the thing. I only picked up on that from her reaction and not like from.
That's funny. I did pick up on that, but
well, and like I don't think that happens all the time, but like I've been in that situation where, you go in thinking like, okay, great, we're going to be talking about my performance, like we're going to talk about where this job is going, and then all of a sudden it turns like super personal, and you're like, but like I'm at work, like this is way beyond what we were talking about here. And you're right though, like it's so subtle that because it's an out of town conference, so it's like, okay, well, we should go. You're like, okay, great. He sees me as a colleague, as a partner that like should go out of town, but there's just like, I can't remember what exactly happens. But there's like he says
something specific, and he's got like a weird look in his eye, and like it was,
and there's like this moment that hangs, and you're like,
I kind of took it as ambiguous, but
no, I don't think it was at all. Plus, you see her,
it probably wasn't.
She's like, we only really see this in the beginning, but she is really good at her job and really proud of how good she is. And so you see her, like, it's a glimmer for a second of excitement that he's kind of noticing her, and then you just see her like deflate when she realizes what's actually happening. Let's talk about some of the plot holes, Shelton. Like, let's the key thing here is that in the third, like, I guess maybe the end of the second act, there is a moment where we realize that her seeing the stalker at the hospital is legit real, and that he got a job there, I guess. And like that to me, it works out okay, I think, in the sense of the full movie, because it leads to such crazy shit. But there definitely is a moment where you're like, how on earth would he know that she was going to
Mhm.
accidentally get committed to this place? Like, the only thing I could think is that now, and I just thought of this, but then maybe, well, no, because I'm sure she got a new phone. Like, maybe he was somehow digitally tracking her and knew where she was or something. Like, and
Well,
it's
and
I don't
also
know.
it's also a huge coincidence that he's in the medical field, so that he would actually even be able to get a job
well,
there.
we can talk about that because I think what happens is like he's obviously moved
Well, he fakes
to
his
the
name.
town.
I mean, he fakes his name too, so he could have just
Right.
made a
And
resume
she
up.
sees him at her office at her new job. And then, so, I mean, he could have followed her. And it is a couple of days later that he shows up at the hospital, but you don't have to be accredited. Like, you're not a nurse to work in a mental health facility. Like, you can be an orderly and not have any medical background. So it just depends on like what type of hospital it is. And I mean, this one obviously is super shitty. So I highly doubt they did like that great of a background check. And he was faking his names, which we see later where he gets his fake name from.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot I think that you can kind of wave it away just by saying that, this is a really like terribly run hospital where, they're just hiring anybody off the street, anybody who's willing to like take like the overnight hours and do whatever. I think the main problem though is this movie like takes place in a really like compressed amount of time. It's like the whole thing is like about a week.
Yeah,
'Cause
it's strange.
she's initially like committed for 24 hours and then it's extended to 7 days. And he shows up like immediately. So,
Right. So
I guess it's possible that
that's really
I
the
mean,
he
but
was
it's still a
biggest.
got the
stretch.
job,
I mean,
got the
because
job, got hired. And,
the funny thing
know.
is, though, that's what keeps you, or what kept me anyway, from really thinking that he could be there. Because I'm like, well, even if this movie wanted to go that way, how the fuck would they justify that he ended up at this hospital?
yeah,
Because
'cause it seems like she got committed on a whim. Like she was just,
Yeah.
she just literally like had a bad experience, decided to go to a psychiatrist, talk
like,
to her.
so
It
Cece,
just sort of like, she was literally on her lunch break.
Cece
like,
mentions though, like a lot of the early shots supposed to be like his point of view stalking her, which I didn't really put together, and you wouldn't put together, I don't think, until almost
there
the
were
end
some
of
shots like from outside bushes.
Yeah, and he
things
does,
like that.
and he does say when he brings her the breakfast, he says that he used to watch her at work and knew what
Yeah,
she
like
ate for
you eat
breakfast.
this for breakfast.
So like,
Sure.
I guess if he was actually like, that was the thing that didn't occur to me, that he was still actively stalking her in her new town and just not contacting her. And so if that was the case and he followed her there, that would explain it. That would be how he would know she was there. That's about all I can guess, I guess.
Well, but also, and I mean, I don't know how much of a spoiler alert this is, but like later on, they find the body of the guy he's pretending to be, which creates a bigger plot hole because it's like, well, how did he like just take this guy's identity and he happened to be transferring to this facility, or like, it's just kind of weird.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I mean, I think by the time you get through the movie, for me anyway, it was easy to just kind of be like, whatever, because it's a leap you have to make in order to just go along the rest of it, which is interesting, and like you kind of want to know where it goes anyway. So, and also I think because they continue to develop how well they're digging into the stalking thing, like this scene towards the end, like he ends up locking her in a padded room in the basement that isn't used anymore, so nobody knows she's there, and like fudging the paperwork to make it look like she had been let go, and the place is such a mess, like nobody even knows anyway. So she's basically trapped down there and has a choice of either like playing ball with him or dying or whatever. And they have this confrontation where and this is another place where you really feel like this guy's just really done his research as far as like the way these relationships are, because she kind of gets up in his face and is like, look, I'm not the person you think I am. I'm a terrible person. And then she basically just starts berating him and trying to show him like, no, I'm not this person. And you just see like this cognitive dissonance in his head as this image of her is getting chipped away at, you know what I mean? But then he's also coming back. And so you're this really unsettling thing where you're being having to listen to his logic, and it's so warped and twisted. It's like, you just like, you don't even want to listen to it because it's just like something you don't want in your brain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that the confrontation scene between the two of them was
fucking intense.
I mean, it was so intense. Like I was sitting on the edge of my seat, like grinding my shoulders because I was just like, I need this to hurry up and get over with. It was like,
Wow.
Kyle was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, it needs to be over." But it's just so like, I mean, I know I probably keep using the same adjectives, but it was just so emotionally raw. Like Claire Foy's performance there was beyond impressive. Like she goes from like
she's gonna be like huge.
Yeah, because
first thing I've seen her in, but she's really
I haven't seen her in anything else either. And now I think she's on The Crown, and I'm tempted to watch that just because she's in it. But the whole time during the movie, it's really interesting because you have this protagonist who is very damaged and very she's complex. You don't necessarily like her because she's kind of a bitch at work. She is kind of rude to her mother.
Even when she's committed and you feel bad for her, she's being super bitchy to the other people there.
Yeah, and so she gets there.
She's kind of an awful person.
Yeah, I mean, she's not very nice.
But also like no person deserves that. Like so it's so it's this complex.
Yeah, you have the sympathy for her,
but you have the sympathy for her. You have this, longing to be like, okay, well, maybe she's just being this way because of everything that's happened to her. And then you get to this confrontation scene where you like have these mixed feelings. And nope, she just leans into it. She's like, I really am this shitty of a person. And you still think that I'm this like, this thing on this pedestal. And the turning point, I don't know that we want to talk about that because that was just beyond insane. But the turning point of what she has David do to like prove his love to her, which is like
twisted,
a super twisted like play against him. I was like slack-jawed. I was like, I cannot believe this is happening. Like it was so impressive. And afterwards you're still like, okay, well now I know you're a crappy person, but I mean, you kind of did what you had to do and I still don't like you, but good for you. Like it's just, you have so many mixed feelings, but it's just, I mean, it was overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean,
so we all went home and took a shower after watching it.
Yes.
I too, like, I know I'm kind of like on repeat with this, but I always, as a huge like Blair Witch fan, I love seeing, those guys pop up because I don't know. I mean, Sheldon, you probably remember, but like, there was this big thing after that movie of people just kind of feeling like they weren't acting, and so like they all struggled. I mean, like Heather kind of, and actually. Heather got out of acting because she was stalked. Because like she had people stalk her who thought like she was the person from the movie and that she was like possessed or something.
Like, tell me the truth. What really happened?
And there was like some incident where some guy tried to run her off a road or something like that. Like,
well, so I wonder how much like he brought to the table.
It's a whole thing, but like, and I think that Josh Leonard has probably had the most mainstream stuff since then. But I really like seeing him get opportunities like this, and he's just so good. I think he's going to be probably overshadowed by like Claire Foy a lot, which is understandable because she's the lead.
Well, it is, but also, I mean, to talk about his performance, you don't see him on screen that often, but when you do see him on screen, it's really interesting. It's really a testament to his acting ability for him to balance that super narrow line of, softness and this approachability, but also this super suffocating, daunting, like, just,
There's also like subtle layers to it because before it's really discovered that he's actually there, he's trying to pretend like he's somebody else and he's trying to convince her that she's hallucinating basically. So like, he's like, no, like he actually changes his mannerisms. So in the beginning, you don't think it's him because she does hallucinate in the beginning and sees his face on the fat dude because then there's like a weird cut and then suddenly it's the heavy set dude and you're like, wait, that was really weird. So then when you see Joshua Leonard again, you're really, I don't think at first thinking it could be him. which is probably
Yeah.
Through this whole movie, I was not sure what was going on,
it's very
and that's
disorienting.
one thing that I really appreciate. Like, you
Yeah,
know,
definitely.
the
Well,
whole time I was just guessing, like, what, you know, is this all in her head? Is it not? Is this real? Is it not?
Well,
You
and
know,
you know it's really it really also plays to, or shows how well of an actor he is, that you have those subtle things with him pretending to be a different orderly, and then his interaction with Jay Farrow's character versus how he acts with Claire Foy's character in the padded room are polar opposites. And he is terrifying in his interactions with Jay's character, and then he turns into this like very sensitive, demure being with Claire's character, and that's all literally within like in the movie's time, an hour an hour in the hospital. So it's just very, I mean, he's a great actor too.
well, what's really creepy is that, like, even after, like, you've seen him do all this stuff, you've seen him like murder people, you've seen him do all this like manipulative stuff. He really thinks that he's gonna go away and have like a happy life with her. That
Yeah.
that they're gonna fall in love and they're gonna live in a little cabin out by the woods.
Yeah.
and
Meanwhile, like
everything's gonna be fine.
spoiler alert, he murdered her mom and she knows about it.
Yeah. When he's
Yeah.
laying there telling her, like, maybe you won't love me in a year, maybe it'll only take 2 years, but then we'll live together forever. And you're like, what the hell
There's
is
that
happening?
scene where he like is kind of pleading with her, and he knocks her down, I think, and then lays on his side next to her like a toddler cuddling up to his mother, and
Right.
it's the most unsettling thing ever. But it's
When
like,
they're in like
it's
the middle of nowhere.
they play the power dynamic so well between the two of them, but just showing how he's a threat, but he's also like oddly like
Kind of like passive and
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's really
This guy-
really amped up too
this-
in that confrontation scene
Yeah.
where she has him, where she makes him prove to her how much he loves her, and it's just that switch it was so unexpected and just, I mean, mind blowing.
This guy would be a sub, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, yes, he would.
Or so I've read. Okay, so yeah, this movie is wild, man. So I think we got to wrap it up here. Let's talk recommendations. Cece, would you recommend this movie?
I think if you go in realizing that it's a very tense movie with some very heavy source material, then yes.
Yeah.
But I would proceed very cautiously.
Shelton.
Yeah, I would recommend it too. Probably, I would say wait for it on the small screen. I
Yeah.
still think it kind of looks like shit, like on the big screen. The iPhone, the shadows. It's it's not the prettiest
Listen,
movie,
it's
but
it's an intentional aesthetic.
it's very no. I mean, it's definitely very gritty, and you get all that gritty blurriness of a iPhone shot movie.
You
But
get
yeah,
what you pay for.
it's there's definitely a lot of interesting stuff that's very relevant to modern times.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would totally recommend.
Yeah,
it.
I'm down too. I think like, again, you just kind of got to be cognizant of the material, and if it's something you want to get into, I would say go for it in the theater if you're interested in it. If if this sounded interesting, because it's pretty intense, kind of a good theater thing. Although at home, I guess you could like
You can pause it,
you
walk
could
away.
pause
Yeah,
it
you
and
can
take
take
a
a breather.
Flash full water on your face.
take a $5, But yeah, I mean, I would say I'm pretty confident this is going to be on my top 10 list this year. So we'll
Wow.
just have to wait till Joe
Yeah.
gets back so we can suss all that out. All right, guys, 3 thumbs up for Unsane. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
After firing the nail gun, your opponent will hear the scream of galvanized steel, splitting the air at tremendous velocity. When you hear him suck his last breath, it is safe to stop firing.
Introducing Quake for the N64, now with a 2-player deathmatch.
Well, maybe one more shot, just for good measure.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Kinmont from Halloween 4 and Bride of Reanimator, and you're listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back. Sheldon, I'm glad you're here. We've been having an ongoing discussion here on the show about movie theater food and either what's the craziest thing you've ever snuck into a movie theater or what's the craziest thing you've ever seen someone sneak in. Do you have any thoughts?
Oh, my God. Oh, man, I've snuck a lot of food into movie theaters. Like one place where I used to live, the theater was inside like this giant mall, and there was like an indoor 7-Eleven in the mall. This was in Asia, so that's why it's super weird. And so like you could go literally in a 7-Eleven and buy like sandwiches and shit and just like fill up, your cargo shorts.
Now, in Asian theaters, is the etiquette the same? Like, is it frowned upon to bring a movie in? Like, they sell you like $10 popcorn and shit?
I think they give less of a shit. And also like the food is not super expensive. So it was kind of pointless to sneak food in because it's like, your popcorn is not like outrageously priced the way it is here, but still, if I wanted a sandwich, I would bring a sandwich in. Yeah.
Movie theater sandwich is the best, man.
Never had one.
Have you? But I mean, I just mean bringing a sandwich into a movie, like eating a sandwich and watching a movie is what I'm trying to say. It's great.
Yeah, no, it's the living the life.
What about you? You ever seen anybody else sneak in anything crazy?
You're asking me? You're asking CC?
Yeah, you.
Me? Oh, I don't know. I don't think so.
It's funny. I just had this memory pop up actually, even though we've been talking about this for like 3 weeks now. A couple came into a theater once and sat like in the row in front of me, and proceeded to both open 2-liter bottles of Coke, because you just heard like, tss, and then they were just drinking straight out of it like savages. I was like, what is wrong with you people?
Yeah. I do remember when I would
bring like a crazy straw.
Crazy straw. When I went to see Blair Witch, my friends and I, we snuck in a few beers.
Nice.
And at one point during the movie, somebody kicked over one of the bottles, and it rolled one of the very quiet, like tense scenes. The thing rolled, and we were in the back of the theater all the way to the front row. Super loud, super long.
You guys were doing. You guys were doing Bruin View before it was a thing, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. The 90s. What are you going to do?
Yeah. All right. There you go. Send more of your movie theater food stories to info@bloodygoodhorror.com. Somebody today, I think Barry Elmstrand, who's a longtime listener, was talking about sneaking in an entire pizza or something. I was trying to find his message, but I couldn't find what platform it was on. That's a great question that I wanted to ask.
I mean, you gotta like divide that up, I guess. Like if you've got 4 people, you each take a quarter.
If it's small enough, you got gallon bags or something. I don't know.
It's messy though. You get that cheese stuck everywhere.
Depends on the kind of pizza, I guess. All right, one email from. We already talked about this. Caitlin wanted to know what we thought of the house with the clock in its Toozy. So there you go. We are also on Twitter at BG Horror with dueling hashtags. The first one, BGH Classics. This is where patrons going through the back catalog tweet us weird or funny things we said. And actually now I'm looking at it and we don't have any new ones, so I probably should have read that before
Hooray.
There you go. The other one, Ask BGH. I think we have a new one here. Let's see. Ask BGH. This is Craig. What mainstream director would you like to see try their hand at a modern low-budget horror film a la Soderbergh with Unsane? Steven Spielberg.
Okay.
I don't know. That's just the
kind of done.
Yeah, he's done stuff like that.
But yeah.
Has David Fincher done like a real horror movie or just like thrillers?
7 is probably
Fincher's
the
done.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like
Good point.
Fincher's done stuff similar to this.
Similar enough. Yeah.
Like Scorsese.
Yeah.
Well, is it
I mean,
Scorsese
Shutter
talking
Shutter
about
Island
doing
is
it?
the closest.
I thought I read a story about
wait.
Scorsese doing something.
Quentin fucking Tarantino.
Well,
That
he
dude's
is.
never. I mean, well, okay, no, he did Death Proof.
Well,
well,
he
true,
did.
but he is now. He's doing the Manson murders.
I don't know. I feel like Quentin Tarantino's like one bad PR story away from not being able to make movies anymore. So
That's how I feel
maybe
about it. I'm
we
like,
maybe shouldn't put all our
It's
hopes
always
on him.
kind of on the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
I'm
feel like
holding my breath.
the only reason like it hasn't taken him down is that people look at him and are like, yeah, we always just kind of figured he was a creepy weirdo. So
Yeah. I mean, feet
Yeah,
are literally in
surprised.
all of his movies.
Too
like
much-
we know he's a weirdo.
listen, too much foot stuff. Okay, like I appreciate
So
the
much
foot,
foot
but
stuff.
not that much.
Yeah, I'd have to think about that one.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Next up, Skizbot. What's one of the best videos you've ever filmed on your phone? I once filmed a rousing game of Slap Cup, the flip cup drinking game, but they slapped each other across the face after each drink. It was used as evidence the next day to show why their faces hurt. Ask BGH. Thank
I
God.
mean, that's-
Thank God smartphones were not around when
Started
I was
to-
in like
Yeah.
high school. Is all I gotta say.
That's amazing.
I would be unemployable if smartphones were around when I grew up.
Yeah. I
For
think that
multiple reasons.
I videotaped on my phone somebody funneling a beer from the third, like they created a funnel to go from the third story of my brother's college house.
I've seen those, yeah.
So I mean that wasn't like super
Now,
amazing, but I did have it on video.
Did it have a valve on it?
No.
Because that's the key to those is you put a valve at the bottom so you can close it off, then you can fill it up like all the way and see if somebody can
that's
actually drink
smart.
3 stories of
Okay,
beer.
this is totally unrelated. Do you guys know about the shambong?
What?
So like,
Oh, no.
like literally, like just before the show started, a friend of mine texted me something. Do you know about the shambong? And I went and looked it up. It's like a champagne beer bong. So imagine a champagne flute with like a little like curved thing,
I'm
and
gonna
I
look
guess
it
you
up.
just like put it in your mouth and you like chug some champagne.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a picture of it into the video right now. Yeah,
That's amazing.
it kind of looks like a pipe, sort of like it kind of looks like a crack pipe type of a situation.
Yes, it totally looks like
It
a
looks like a crack pipe.
it's a crack pipe for champagne.
Yeah,
It's a wine mom crack pipe.
that's fucking stupid. Also, it's glass, so how do you tip that up? Doesn't make any sense. I mean, I guess I see
Yeah,
the inertia will do the trick.
Super
But
dangerous. You're gonna have all kinds of like burps. It's it's not a great idea, but it's hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
Shambong, 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 and the shambong. What's that song? What am I thinking of? Hambone or
You're
something?
fucking-
I don't
You know
know.
what I'm talking about. All right. Yeah. I think that's gonna do it. Actually. Let's see. Sorry. Oh wait, we got 2 new ones. One more. Evan. Hey buds, what's your favorite Canadian horror movie? Probably Black Christmas for me. Have a good one. I might agree with that assessment.
It's a good answer.
What other? I know Pontypool's Canadian, isn't it?
Pool's a good one.
So yes,
Is Tucker
yes,
Dale versus Evil? Is that Canadian?
so yes, Pontypool is my least favorite Canadian horror movie.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, I like it, but it wasn't my favorite. I like Ginger Snaps a lot.
that's up there. Yeah.
Did you know that Prom Night is Canadian?
Yeah, they're yes.
I
did.
mean, I didn't know that. American Mary is Canadian, and
Yep.
that would be my favorite.
Yeah, the
All
Saska
that
sisters are Canadian. I can confirm.
Yes, I love them. Yeah, that would be my pick.
American Marys, yeah, I would say modern, probably that.
North American Mary.
It's a good point, Shelton. I didn't think of that. Yeah. All right, guys. I think that's gonna do it. If you would like to hear more of the Homeless Professor, Mr. John Shelton,
Hey.
become a patron. Get on that patron feed and check out Sophisticult Cinema. Are you doing episode numbers, Shelton, or is this just a?
I kind of like messed up the numbers a couple of episodes ago, so I just quit doing it.
That's
so,
fine.
Yeah.
So check out the
Smart.
latest. Let's say check out the latest episode.
Yeah. It came out like 3 weeks ago, maybe.
This Sunday, tweet with BGH. I think you can follow.
No, next Sunday.
Next Sunday, I think you can follow Sophie on Twitter or Evan and check that out. Also, join CC's book club. You can check that out on Goodreads and also find on the site. Shelton, really quick, your cult movie trivia challenge thing, or challenge. Or
whatever. Yeah. Not a trivia thing at all. No, it's a thing.
Kidding.
It's a list on Letterboxd every year. People do a list of movies every week, has a different theme. And if you're on the Slack, or if you're not a patron, you can join the Slack. We're watching a different movie every week. Everybody votes on it. We watch it. There's a lot of different themes. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, you should check it out.
So how?
Cult Movie Challenge.
How do they do that?
It's on the Slack. The channel name is I think Cult Movie Challenge. If you look at Letterboxd, I'm Shelton on there. You can friend me, and you can see what we watched so far. And every week we vote on something new.
So if they're not a patron, could they like follow along on Letterboxd and get the movie for the week?
Probably.
Or like, do you talk about it on Twitter?
No, we pretty much just talk about it on Slack.
Okay.
Patrons only, guys.
All right.
Like, come on.
Check out Slack.
Yeah,
Only unwashed masses.
I believe $1 a month for Bloody Good Horror will get you on Slack. Get you up in that.
Yes, it will. Yeah.
And then you
we'll
too.
get you on Slack.
And then you too can slide into my DMs like Cece did today. So
yeah.
There you go. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for Bloody Good Horror. I don't know what we're doing next week because Joe's not here. So we'll follow us on Twitter. We'll let you know. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you next week.
See ya.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.